Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Steve Cooper, food app critic for TokeMag.com. We got a recipe box type, digital box type app for you today. It's called Recipedia. It is available for the iPhone. It is 99 cents. There is also a free version, Recipedia Lite. The difference is with Recipedia Lite, you can import 10 recipes. On the full version for 99 cents, you can upload over 20,000 recipes. The question is, do you want to? Do you have the time? That's what I will discuss right now. So you open the app, and it gives you this little splash screen. You swipe to open it up, and when you first open it, you're really given a blank slate. It has some organizational tabs along the right-hand side. Those include appetizers, sides, entrees, desserts, and other. And then across the top, it has your table of contents where you can sort it by category, and it's got this scrolling list. You can bookmark your favorite recipes. You can sort them alphabetically, A through Z. And then you can also tag recipes, which is kind of nice. So if you have a special ingredient, you can, or not even an ingredient, maybe these are gluten-free recipes, for example, you can tag that and then sort by all your gluten-free recipes. So that's a nice feature. So what you do is you open this thing up, and you either going to be searching for a recipe or you're going to be inputting a recipe. So there is a new recipe button, and this is where you're going to spend a lot of time, particularly when you first get this app, because there's nothing in here. The options for inputting a recipe are blank recipe, copy and paste a recipe, featured recipe sites, which I'll talk about all these in just a second, and then find on the web. So the first one, blank recipe, it's really just a form that you fill out. It's fine, it's nice to have that structure, but they don't really do you any favors. So in prep time, for example, you have to type out 1 hour or 45 minutes, or at least type in the 4 or 5 minutes or whatever. It doesn't give you any scrolls, preset options, none of that stuff. So in that regard, I was really disappointed that it wasn't actually making the process any easier. If anything, I would rather go onto my computer and type it in there. Speaking of which, before I get into the other stuff, this thing does sync with iCloud, so if you put a recipe into your phone or your iPad, it will sync up and it will be available on all the devices that this app is on. So that is nice. The copy and paste recipe part is really, it's exactly what it sounds like. So if you have an email, somebody's emailed you a recipe, you click this option, and then you have to actually physically go out of the app, copy that portion of the email, and then come back into the app and then paste it in and go back and forth. It's really clunky. It's not a very good system. The next one is my favorite way to import stuff, and that is the featured recipe site. It looks like they have a partnership with Epicurious, allrecipes.com, as well as the Food Network website. Sounds awesome. You do a search on for some recipe, and it'll give you results in all 3 of these sites. The problem is these are very truncated results, and the search function is just a very basic search function. There's no real tools to granulate your search at all. So let me give you an example. I did a search for pasta, for example, and on the Food Network results, that it gave results for all 3 sites, but within the results that came back for the Food Network, it gave me a baker's dozen. It gave me 13 results. So I was like, that seems kind of small for the Food Network to have just 13 recipes in it. Let me go to the Food Network site. So I went there and I did a search, and it got over 2,300 results. So I don't know what it's giving me, but it's definitely not the robust database of recipes. So if you're looking for a specific recipe that you saw on TV, there's a really good chance that you're going to try to import it through this feature, and it's not going to work. The last way to import a recipe is through finding it on the web, and This option has potential, but it doesn't live up to it. Basically, you go in and you do a search and you land on a website. If you know the URL, you can type it in, but who types in full URLs these days? But let's say you get to a site, I go type in foodnetwork.com. Pasta recipe wasn't one of the 13. So I go to the foodnetwork.com, I do find the recipe on there. So now what it's going to have you do is much like the Divi app that I last reviewed, it wants to have you highlight specific portions of the recipe to identify them, and then that will come into this recipe box here. So this is the prep time, this is the cook time, these are the ingredients, these are the preparation methods. The problem is it doesn't, unlike the Divi app where it did some really slick magic where it zoomed in on portions of the bill that it knew were related to what the question was asking, this doesn't do any of that. You really have to go around and do it all yourself manually, which doesn't make it that simple. So as you can see, a blank recipe box without a very good way to actually get your recipes into it, it works, but it's just not super efficient, and I find that to be an issue when I'm talking about buying an app to make my life easier. Yes, it would be nice to have a digital reference synced to the cloud of all my recipes, but if it takes this much work to get there, I don't know if I want to do it. The other part of having a digital recipe box is finding and sharing your recipes. You can share through email. Once you're in the app, I mentioned the different ways you can find it through bookmarking your favorites and alphabetical and those things. It does that stuff pretty well. You can also do a basic search. That stuff works. It's fine. I don't have any major complaints that would really tick me off. Now, the last thing about this app, though, that I want to talk about before I go is the shopping list functionality. So when you put stuff into your shopping list, it's not a very robust shopping list, first off. You can sort it by the recipe, or you can just have a long list of ingredients. It doesn't do the cool breakdowns by aisle or any of that stuff that we've seen in the past. Excuse me. And then when you cross items off your recipe list, it doesn't do a true strike through. It just puts lines over or between words and stuff. It's kind of odd. So if you have a single line, it'll cross out the single line. But if you have an ingredient thing that takes up two lines, the strike through will actually go in between the two. So it's not a true strike through, which I find that a lack of attention, lack of care, I'm not sure. And even worse, when you go and email that shopping list, it does not read those crossed out. It does read those crossed out items as needing to be fulfilled. So we actually saw this with our everyday lunch a few episodes back. And so in that regard, it doesn't do the shopping list very well. The app works if you are just looking for some basic way to put recipes in. You don't care how clunky it is. You want it to be synced to your devices. You might find this okay. I personally I want more. But like I said, there is a free light version, so I would highly recommend giving that a try first. Put in 10 recipes and see if you want to put in another 10 before you would actually pay for it. But saying all that, I know I've been very critical of this app, but the design is from the aesthetic point of view, it's nice. There are some nice things about this app, just none that I think would make it worthy of your download. But saying all that, we've seen some real stinkers in the past which have gotten really bad grades. I couldn't do that to this app because it's not like this app is a terrible app. I just think there's some conceptual issues with it. And for that reason, I am going to give this a 3 out of 5. So before I sign off, I want to remind everybody the Food App Awards are just around the corner. If you have not submitted your app, please do so immediately. It's free to submit your app. Your first app is free. And we have an amazing panel of judges that will be grading and rating the apps and giving out the awards. So don't wait. You can get more information on the website, tokemag.com. The URL will be up in a second here. Until next time, that's going to do it. So check it out. I think you will enjoy it. And we're going to have an awards ceremony on Twitter, #FoodAppAwards, and that will be in December. So don't wait, act now, and until next time, take care, everybody.